Well, life's so alright, controlling this crazy space.
Say nuclear wiener.
Nuclear wiener.
Welcome back, WTFers. Welcome back to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. We're going to dig deeper into the whole Microsoft firing up 3 Mile Island again. The reason why is because, I knew I was pretty incomplete with what I was talking yesterday, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper just to kind of give a little bit of clarity, give a little bit of understanding, and, who knows, maybe educate ourselves just a bit. We are in a classroom after all, right? I got the really cool, flower petals flying by. I didn't design this. I'm just here. So anyway, this is what we're going to be doing. So why don't you go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you share this with your friends, because this is kind of cool stuff. I want to talk about this instead of the hurricane. The reason is because there's a lot of questions I have about that. We'll talk about that at some point in time, because FEMA has done some stuff, yada yada yada, and I want to make sure I'm not feeding out some false information. This is something we can kind of dig into. Though, interesting thing when I was getting ready to do this one is I started out, we all use AI a lot, whether we know it or not. I use ChatGPT just to kind of gather my information a little bit, and then I back it up. It's like, well, what about this? What about that? Because we don't necessarily know everything, and it's just kind of a fast way to do it. Google searching is also another way. All the information in the world is at our fingertips now. Whether it's true or not, is a whole other story. You have to really dig into it. So what I did was I started out with, asking about this, and my first question was, how did Microsoft get approval to restart 3 Mile Island, and why are they doing it? And ChatGPT comes back with, Microsoft did not get approval to restart 3 Mile Island. It's possible that there may be confusion around recent news involving Microsoft's involvement in the nuclear energy sector. So I dug into that a little bit, and you know what? There's a simple Google search gave me some stuff, and so I asked ChatGPT, were you ignoring stories from Reuters, The Guardian, CBS News, and World Nuclear News, who all state that Constellation is planning to restart Unit 1 after an agreement with Microsoft to provide power to Microsoft for 20 years? You know what? And it did some digging, and it checked a couple of the sites, and it actually came back with some information. Then you follow up. You have to keep following up with this stuff. This is as bad as talking to a politician sometimes. And I did ask. Are you just telling me what I want to hear because I asked about it, or did you actually find the information to correct yourself? And it came back with, this is ChatGPT's words, I found the information directly from credible sources like World Nuclear News. According to their report, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to get into it a little bit. So just so you know, and I did do some searching, and I wrote a couple of scripts for very short, but you know what, we're going to go with something a little bit longer, because, I want to give it its fair thing here. Okay. So, what is up with this? First off, 3 Mile Island, as we discussed in the last episode, is infamous for the 1979 nuclear accident. It's the worst in U.S. history. Unit 2 is the site of a partial meltdown, and it's been decommissioned ever since. But Unit 1, which was separate and operated safely for years, was shut down in 2019 due to financial challenges, because it's an expensive thing to run, let me tell you. Now, thanks to a 20-year power purchase agreement with Microsoft, Constellation Energy is gearing up to bring the plant back online under a new name, the Crane Clean Energy Center.
Nuclear power.
And the reason they're doing it is to supply carbon-free, reliable energy to Microsoft data centers and support its commitment to become a carbon negative by 2030. So, what's that saying is it's an interesting thing, because I remember, and if you're like us as Gen Xers, we remember in the 1980s how nuclear was so, don't touch it, can't have it, look at the horrible thing that happens with it. We didn't understand it, of course, and we didn't didn't have enough safety procedures for certain things. That's why Unit 2 wasn't run correctly, and then we have Chernobyl, which used very old technology and was not properly maintained. So that was Chernobyl. Then Fukushima in Japan. That, who could predict that, right? I mean, the tsunami overrunning. Oh wait, they were right on the coast. Maybe they could have known that, in an earthquake-prone area. Yeah, tsunamis happen there. They weren't really prepared for it. Once again, not being prepared for things properly. So now there's a 20-year power purchase agreement with Microsoft, and they're calling it the Crane Clean Energy Center. So this is going to be completely new entity, and their goal is to supply a carbon-free, reliable energy.
Nuclear power.
Which, for those of us who support nuclear energy, this is the things that we understand. This is what it is. On the other hand, yes, there is a danger involved. Any form of power generation has a danger involved. The one for nuclear is pretty rough. I mean, you have your nuclear waste materials.
Damn it!
Stewie, get out of that nuclear waste.
You have your rods that your uranium rods that have to be stored properly. You have if something happens, the water gets toxic. That's used to cool them. So all of these things can happen. So it has to be done properly. On paper, this seems like a win-win. Reviving the plant will create over 3,400 direct and indirect jobs and inject more than $3 billion into Pennsylvania's economy. That's a big shot in the arm. Plus, the nuclear power provides constant energy supply without the carbon emissions of coal or natural gas, which that's an attractive solution for tech giants like Microsoft, who want to reduce their environmental footprint. These places with their data centers and all of these things going on, they generate a lot of electricity. So what they're saying, their CEO of Constellation is saying, this project will serve as a model for decarbonizing large-scale industries and power grids. Microsoft sees this as a way to ensure a steady supply of green energy for its data centers, which consume vast amounts of power. So this is kind of an interesting thing for them to say, that they're calling nuclear green energy. This was not the aspect that we had in the 80s, when we were kids. We didn't understand it this way. Nuclear, this was not a green energy. Instead of going after solar or wind power or what's some of the other ones, tidal power generation, all of these things which are out there, they're not doing that because these are all dependent upon, on a lot of other things, or they do have an actual emissions footprint. Okay, carbon emissions, kicking out. If you with the coal and the natural gas, these others are like very, very weather dependent. You have to have sun on solar. You have to have wind for windmills. The tidal one, has its own issues. Most of them aren't even designed yet. Not everyone is cheering about this though. Critics are pointing out that even with the safety upgrades, nuclear plants come with inherent risks. While Unit 1 operated safely before its closure, the shadow of 3 Mile Island's past is pretty hard to ignore. Environmental groups are also wary of the potential for accidents and the long-term issue of dealing with radioactive waste. This is one of the things that we've always had an issue with. However, when you study what they're doing and how they do it, it's actually amazing at how good they are actually at storing the radioactive waste, and there's actual uses for it.
You are as radiant as a barrel of nuclear waste.
So it's not just a whole bunch of waste that's laying around in buckets like you see on The Simpsons. On The Simpsons or in movies, you always see the radioactive waste bucket, barrel that's got green slime coming out of it and gets knocked over and immediately spills. These things are they're cemented in. There's actual concrete. They're embedded in concrete, and all these things different things are happening to protect us from the waste. I'm not as concerned about it now as I used to be. I've actually read up on how they do it. There's also the financial side. Okay, this is a big deal here. This is going to cost a lot of money, not to mention all the regulatory hurdles that they're going to have to clear. The U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission will need to approve the restart, and Constellation will be applying for new operating license to extend the plant's life until 2054. So that is, they're anticipating 5 years just to get it up and running. So why is Microsoft getting involved in nuclear energy? It's all about consistency. Solar and wind are great, but they're dependent on the weather. Nuclear power offers a stable, around-the-clock source of energy that tech companies can rely on to keep their servers running.
Say nuclear wiener.
Nuclear wiener.
It's not just about powering data centers. It's also about influence. By putting its money behind nuclear, Microsoft is sending a message. It's willing to invest in every option, even controversial ones, to achieve this carbon neutrality. If it's successful, the Crane Clean Energy Center will be back online by 2028. So you're looking at 3 to 4 years, making it the second U.S. nuclear plant to restart after being shut down.
Nuclear power.
This could pave the way for more nuclear revivals across the country, as policymakers and companies alike search for solutions to meet growing energy demands without exasperating climate change. And this is one of the things about nuclear. We as Americans, our houses are using so much more electricity than they did when we were kids in the 80s, in the 70s and 80s. When I'll give you an example. So if you're an electrician out there, you know some of these numbers. We used to be able to handle a 100 amp service in a house at one point in time. That's all you needed, and that was sufficient for running everything in the house. Your refrigerator, your washer and dryer, your stove, all your lights, all your electronics, your TVs, all could run off of that 100 amp service. That is not good enough. Okay, straight up anymore. That is not good enough. If you have if you have a family, if you're running with with a couple of kids in the house, the computers, everything happening, you need a 200 amp service now. And I'm thinking that probably in the next 10 years, that's probably going to increase, if you ask me. 200 amp service leaves a little bit of room. It has a little bit of room still to grow. So this is something, nuclear could be an answer for this. And as much as, I think alternative sources are really cool, and I want new technology to be worked on, of course, but we do have this option. So the question remains, is it the right move? Will the benefits outweigh the risk, or is it just another expensive gamble with a complicated legacy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. Is this a forward-thinking partnership for green energy, or are we reopening a chapter best left in the past? Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, keep asking. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. I'm out.